Community Beacon, Fridays at 6:30 EST, with your hosts Michael Seville and Joel Simmons. A channel whose focus is liberty. A place where the lessons discussed and taught will create openings to a more open and freer mindset. A mindset where you may reach the height of your potential and excel. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joel.
All right. How's it going, brother? We are back here again. This is a pre-recording for all you out there watching it. You know, we'll get back to you in the comments and whatnot. So like, love, all right? Subscribe. Hey, let's just talk about this real quick before I go into who's hosting this magical moment. All right. Remember, Motivational Mike Monday, 9:00 p.m. Eastern. This past week, he was diving into time and did a little bit of work into real estate. Had to remind us about what he's really digging his hands into and making work over there. All right. It starts with me Wednesday, 12:30 every Wednesday. All right. We had your girl, the audacious Alicia Curry out there. Yep, she came through, and that was a good one. Fire it up. All right. And then we have this show, Community Beacon, which airs every single Friday night at 6:30 p.m. Yeah. So we've been talking about legacy. We want to remember, hey, listen, throw a comment, we give you a shout out. All right. Throw a comment, we give you a shout out. All right. So like, love, comment. It's on. We're closing out the legacy. But first, now let's get into the host who is here. It ain't just me. We got the king of real estate. It's your boy, Michael Seville. My brother, what's going on?
Brother, I am hiring you right now. If I have any events, matter of fact, I do have an event coming up next month. Next
30th,
week.
Right?
Yeah. Oh man, this week. Gee.
Yeah, it's in 3 days.
Monday. The 30th, Monday? Oh man. Anyway, I have an event coming up. Definitely, I'm gonna hire you to bring you out there, man. I can't wait for it, man. But yeah, Mike Seville. Glad to see you guys back in the place. He already did the housekeeping. I normally do the housekeeping. The brother did an excellent job. We might have to bump up his pay at least 20%. I'm gonna go ahead and give you the 20% raise, brother. So it'll be so look out for it. Look out for it on your next check.
Checks in the mail.
Yeah, look out for your next check, man. Proud to be here. We're wrapping this legacy thing up. We had an excellent month starting off, and I think this is starting off the year right. You know what? We need to start with the end in mind.
Woo!
Right? So if we start, so we're talking about legacy, we're talking about the future, we're talking about having a vision. Without vision, we will perish. People without vision will perish. And so and there was a couple things that I wanted to talk about, if you don't mind, brother, if I can bring it up on the beginning end of the show. Because just walking around thinking, having these conversations, what happens is now I'm having conversations with everyone else. Is what I want everyone else to do, right? Even within this legacy conversation, you can't do it by yourself. One person, no man is an island. One person just can't work it. So I'm having these conversations with different people, cousins, family members, friends, anyone that's willing to hear me. I'm willing to tell you about it. And so one of the things that it's interesting because earlier before we started this broadcast, we were talking about the process, and I started thinking about the preparation. Like, how hard is this, right? Because apparently we aren't doing it. So either it's difficult or we just don't know, right? So it's one. It has to be one or the two. So if it's difficult, then we need to work on that challenge. If you don't know, you can't say you don't know, because we are telling you. And we're not doing this out of theory. We're not doing this out of just a pie in the sky thinking. We want to be able to actually put you all, as well as we are, putting these things in place. one of the things that I believe in is that a person, I believe in good debt. So anyone who tells you don't have credit cards or don't take out loans or whatever the case may be, I'm not saying, I don't necessarily believe in that. I think a person should be able to take as much debt as they can stand and they can cover. As long as you're alive, if you can stand it, meaning that you can withhold the pressure. Some people have more pressure than others. I always tell this story about one of my mentors when I first got into real estate used to own a car business. And so we're talking about, I'm getting ready to sign off on a mortgage. So my mortgage payment at the time would have been, it was maybe $800 a month, $800 to $1,000 a month. It was I think the property was like 90 something thousand. And so I'm signing off and I'm looking at him, he's looking at me because he's just like, just go ahead and do it. And I'm like, man, at the time, $800 extra, like what, the extra $800 a month. And you got to understand, I have to fix this property up. So for the first 2 to 3 months, I'm not making any money. I'm just spending money plus they had extra $800 a month. And then he told me a story. He said, Mike, I used to own the car lots. And I said, okay, you own the car lots. He said, how much my monthly, debt coverage was, my debt coverage payment, which is your mortgage or whatever it is. He said it was $400,000. He said, so before I made a dime at that car lot, I had to make at least $400,000 in order to cover all of the debt that I was incurring. He said, do you know what kind of pressure that is when you go on vacation? So he said, I went on vacation once and nobody was picking up the phone. He said he was in Florida, I think it was in Indiana. He said, so I'm in Florida, I'm calling, no one's picking up the phone. It's like towards the middle of the month to going towards the end of the month. No one's picking up the phone. In my mind, he said, what kind of thoughts are running in my mind when no one's picking up the phone? I'm thinking nobody came in today, something happened. If nobody's picking up the phone, how are we taking phone calls? Is anybody coming? Like he has to pay $400,000. He said, Mike, I was about to hop on a flight, book a charter flight to get back to Indiana. He said, but what I did instead was, he said he called down all the businesses on the same strip. And he eventually found out that the phones weren't working in the area. But he's talking about that kind of pressure. So I said, that's a different kind of pressure. Having to pay $400,000 a month versus the $800 payment. So everybody can stand different pressure. Hopefully at some point in time, I'll be able to stand $400,000 pressure. But the thing is, I don't want to leave that to Elijah and Paul, if those are my heirs, because I don't know when I'm going to leave. And if I don't know when I'm going to leave, they could be 20 years old and I don't want to leave $400,000 hanging over their head. Now they have to get in and learn a business that they may not necessarily know at the time. So what I do, my thought process is that, okay, well, I have no problem taking out life insurance that'll cover everything. So if I were to leave, everything's taken care of. So there's no rushing. Now you have time to, because you have to, more than likely, it's me. So they'll be going through the grieving process, right? I'm a great father. So they'll be going through the grieving process. So they don't have the emotional stress, because funerals are emotionally stressful, right? So, and it's even more so when there's a money thing attached to it. We spoke about this last week, or maybe it was the week before, when we spoke about having to come up with the money for the funeral. That weighs a lot on the family. And so just having to come up with the money for the funeral, then turn around and have to figure out what is going on with all the bills that are due, what's owed, is the house paid for, is the house not paid for? That's debt. I want you, and if you can think like me, think about this, cover it. Take out enough insurance that will cover it and more. I'm not going to tell you the amount, but it's minute compared to what you get, especially if you're young. If you're under the age of 45, somewhat healthy, it's pennies to get certain insurance compared to what you get paid off for. We don't know when we're gone. The process wasn't that hard. I called my insurance people. They took down my information. They put in the application. I got a phone call shortly thereafter. 20-minute, took a 20-minute survey or asked me questions like, go down and I get my physical check. We're done. and you're binded from the time you take you're binded, meaning that it's in place once you do the survey, right? So now, I don't know about you, brother. You tell me. There's a certain weight that gets lifted from your shoulders when you know that if something happens, your family is taken care of, right? I could imagine, because I know the way that I feel, the way that you feel. Now I have insurance, but just to have that extra is just like, okay, these guys are going to be okay. The focus is not necessarily on that. Now the focus is on, okay, how do I start to implement this legacy that I'm talking about? Now I can start to talk about putting together the traditions and the culture. But the bare basic minimum is, if something happens, they don't have to worry about, what's the next step, and their mothers for that, for that as well. So it's not it's not that it's difficult. So we can take the difficult away from it. It's more so about not knowing and the preparation. Okay, because I'm telling you, it's not difficult. If you want some steps and moving in that direction, please give me a call. Right? But we're not going to make this harder than what it is. What we're going to do is we're going to start to prepare. We're going to have a vision, and we're going to start to prepare towards that vision. And people, do it sooner than later. What say you, brother? Any comments on that?
And I love it. I think that's important. As far as that preparation goes, it's necessary, but understanding how to put that preparation together, I think that is where we have to gain knowledge. You have to go out and seek it. One thing that you mentioned, man, I'm do a little transition, from the finance into like our reputation, our character, just slightly, and we can bounce with that. But you mentioned pressure, and pressure, y'all. Pressure creates change. That's where changes come from. Pressure creates changes. You can't access certain changes inside of your life. You can't reach those higher levels until there is some type of pressure, an emotional pressure, a mental pressure. Even when you're lifting weights, you have to take on a higher amount of weight, creating pressure to tear down the muscles and rebuild new. Your brain needs a certain amount of pressure. Sometimes you're like, my brain hurts because you're studying, especially young people are studying to take a test, and their brain starts to hurt. They got to go sit down. They need to drink water. They need to drink some coffee or something, because pressure creates change. Even think about it like this. Coal, you can get a diamond out of coal, and it's not really the coal, it's the carbon. So that even more tells us something, because like if you look at it as coal as being the human body, then it's not really the coal that changes into the diamond, but it's a part of what's inside of the coal, right? It's a part of what's inside of the coal. Just like it's a part of what's inside of you that requires some type of pressure in order to bring the diamond out of you. In order to get a diamond out of that carbon, it takes like 2200 degrees of heat and over 750,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. We're talking about compression. We're talking about a lot of energy, right? A lot of pressure. And so the more pressure you put on yourself to do whatever it is that you're desiring to do, to make those financial goals reality, the more you can stand it, the greater you will be and the greater opportunity you have at actually accomplishing it. So don't pale when it comes down to the pressure. Just understand it is needed in order for your change. You know what I mean?
I love it. You know what? This is crazy that you're talking about it. I just started reading a book, and I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a guy named David Goggins is the author. Yeah. He has the book Can't Hurt Me. And that's what you said is exactly some of the things that the book speaks to in regards. He has a 40% rule where it's an incredible story, and it kind of went different than what I thought it was going to be, so far. But check out, if any of you all got to get a chance, check out David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me. he has some interesting language. So if you're
oh yeah, he's tough. He's a Marine.
Yeah, he's a Navy SEAL. Yeah, he's
Navy SEAL.
Yeah. So but he has the 40% rule. He says when you think you've given it all you've got, he said you've only reached 40% of your capacity. So if you push through, like the brothers talk about, if you push through, that's when the diamond happens. That's when that's when you move forward. But brother, that all within itself is excellent, man. I'm excited hearing you talk about it.
Yeah, and just so you all understand something about that David Goggins, this dude became highly depressed, overweight, and I mean he just changed phenomenally his whole life. He ain't giving us $1. I'm just telling you, whenever somebody does something good out there and they push through it, just like the podcast that we got going on Wednesdays, it starts with you. That's what this whole thing is about. What we do in the community beacon is to help people to understand that if they work on something without cease, they will absolutely become successful in whatever it is. You can do whatever you put your mind to. Like getting to the character point of view of it. That whole thing where the pressure comes down on you, you got to face it. Like, Mike, I don't know about you, man, but I've been talking with my little boy. I'm talking with him, and sometimes there's things that come up, and the things that come up, they make him, they stress him out. And I had this conversation with him last night because I call him little man. He's like, I'm not a little man, He said, I'm just a kid. I'm like, understand this, I'm for a man. And then, unfortunately, I'm going to say it this way, though. But for a little black man, I'm going to tell you something. If you do X, Y, or Z, then you can be held to the, level of the law. It is what it is. And I'm not saying this because, of some statistic. I'm saying this because I've been there. I didn't want to be there, But I've been there underage and treated as if I was an adult, Mm-hmm. It is what it is. You know what I mean? I'm making bad decisions, I shouldn't have been making bad decisions. So I'm giving him this understanding. I call you a little man for a reason, because that's exactly what you are. You are nothing but a man growing into a greater man. That's what you are. You're not a boy. You're a man. Now you can do childish things as a child, but your mind has to always be growing. So the things that you're going through, this is a part of your character development. You will gain a reputation from this. So I tell my little boy all the time, listen, you can't cry now. That I teach my boy when it's appropriate to cry. I don't know. So some of y'all may think I'm crazy out there, but I'm like, listen, when you get out there in the real world, nobody's going to care about that right there.
Okay, I think that's an excellent point. And because I'm brother. The brother is a little bit more empathetic than I am. I was thinking about that this morning, and I also saw a meme that was put up in regards to it. I don't know the exact wording to it, and I get it. Oh, there was Little Duval. He wrote it. Nobody cares about technically what you have going on. It's all. When was the last time you thought about the 17 cents to feed a child in Africa? You know what I mean? When the commercial comes on, it's like, whoa, it might hit you. But then 3-4 hours later, you're not even thinking about this commercial anymore. You know what I mean? So when you're getting in front of people for that moment, they may feel sorry for you or take some type of pity on you, but then they go out and they have their own things to deal with, and all they're thinking about is the results. Can this person provide the results or whatever it is that you're supposed to be put here for? So essentially, and I'm not telling you you're not supposed to be. You can't talk to someone. You can't have these emotions. I personally don't say that. I totally believe that a person, if you feel you need to cry, then you cry. If you need to let it out, you need to let it out. The caveat to that is that that's only going to get you so far, right? Like you got a window on it. Let me tell you what happens after that. is that though those people may feel sorry for you immediately, if this starts to become a trend of where it's always something emotional going on with you, people will avoid you like the plague.
All right.
Because even though you may be going through it, right? Like I'm not saying that you're not having this emotional reaction. What I'm saying is that people will figure out every time the rubber hits the road, this person's going to come up with an excuse, and it's going to be an emotional excuse. What we need to do is, as opposed to saying, not as opposed to, but what we can do, or what we can do in regards to that is, there's some more underlying things going on. You know what I mean? When you're getting this pressure put on you and you're breaking during the pressure, and if it's gradual pressure, I'm not saying someone dropped a 1,000-ton boulder on your head. I'm saying as you're getting this pressure, you need to continue checking yourself. Like, what's going on with me? A lot of the reasons why we end up crying or we end up having these breakdowns is it's almost like it's the straw that broke the camel's back. Something has been going on already, right? And we haven't faced those traumas, but that's a whole other different.
No, I mean, you're getting into it, Mike, and I'm good with it because I wanted to get into character and character development anyway. Right. The thing is when he gets to that point, the first thing I started to open this up. I'm like, I don't want to see any crying, because this isn't the time. But the next thing I'm doing is I'm inserting the reason why. Right. I give my boy the reason why. I want him to start thinking about this. Because I can't change, I'm not here to make him cry or not cry, but I want him to understand the implications of it. Listen, I cried when I was a kid. I understand it, It a lot of times it's because you didn't get your way. I get that, and we're living in a world where a lot of people are getting over on their parents because they don't get their way. I get that. I understand it. Every single child is going to push up against their parent to see what they can get, And it's up to the parent to be able to say, all right, you done hit that line. I told you about it. Now you hit it. You trying to cross it. Let me show you how to back up. So the whole thing is listen, take it up, take the lesson from my 11-year-old boy and put it inside of a grown-up. You get struggle at work and then you're just like, now you have no money. How you gonna pay for your bills? How you gonna pay? Oh, I'll be all right. No, you're not gonna be all right. You need to come up with a plan. So don't cry about it. Do something about it. Learn from what's going on. Maybe, just maybe, God is trying to tell you something. I had to put that in there because sometimes we're going through something because there's a lesson to be learned and we haven't learned that lesson. And until we learn that lesson, we will continue to repeat it. We're just like hamsters inside on one of those little wheels, It's like getting on a treadmill. You running for hours, for days, for miles, but you ain't going nowhere. Because after you get off the treadmill, you're in the exact same place you got on the treadmill at. So you got to learn from these things. Character development. You will develop your reputation based off of the things you say and do today. So let's bring it back into, the character and reputation in regards to the legacy of it is that we're attempting to, for our sons, for Jonah, for Elijah, for Paul, there's a lot of things that we already went through that we don't necessarily, we're not trying to see you go through. So when we're talking about, so that's where this character and reputation is coming from, because it's like, if we don't teach you, you are going to be doomed to repeat. What's the saying? If you don't understand your history, then you're doomed to repeat it. So it's up to us to teach them this history. Listen, this is the going back to you being treated as an adult, as a child for whatever you was doing. We have to grow up as a African American here in America. We have to grow up understanding certain things. Now, I don't want you to put this in your mind as an excuse as to why you can't achieve what you need to achieve. What we're saying is that as a man, you need to be aware of these things. You're not going to be aware of it. Be aware how, because of the narrative that came before you, it has nothing to do with you, Jonah. Yeah. We love you. We know you're a sweet little boy. Elijah, Paul, we know that you all have the love in your heart and you wouldn't hurt anything.
But because because of the narrative around it, we have to make you aware that there's a narrative that people may not necessarily see you like we see you. Okay, so for that reason being, because we know we've been through it. You know what I mean? Where we weren't necessarily that, and then we were treated as such. So we're trying to make you aware. Just be aware of it.
And let me broaden the scope a little bit, because this actually applies to everyone, every nationality, every person, every creed, because there is, you know, I mean, when I went to the fire department, I began to realize there's a whole lot of people out there in the world that are suffering. You know, I started to learn all these different backgrounds and all these different stories that I had never heard about before, because all of a sudden my circle of individuals had opened up so wide. There's so many different type of people. It's like a melting pot of different nationalities and personalities. So this what we're talking about goes to everyone. And some people, let's take it out of the childhood. Some people are going through these things today. And you think about this. What you're doing today, you're leaving that inside of your child. How I deal with something today, I leave inside my child. You know? And so when I start talking about my reputation and my legacy, I don't want my son to be looking towards me as he's developing. I expect there to be some stress fractures. That's where tears come from. Stress fractures. I expect there to be some stress fractures, because there was in me, just like there was in Mike and many other people. But I always want him to be able to look to me like I look to Martin Luther King Jr., or I look to Dr. S.C. Madison, or I look towards my mother and I saw somebody who could go through the storm and come out unscathed.
Amen.
Somebody who, even when they broke down, they got up stronger. That's what I'm passing on to my son. I don't care how many times he cries. I'm still going to tell him it's not the time to cry until it is, because this is a lesson that he has to learn from his father, because I'm his daddy. I didn't grow up with a daddy, so nobody was there to teach me that. So I had to learn my way through some other means that I don't want him to have to access. But just like many people out there, you want to create a legacy that will live. When your child walks in the room and says, that's a Simmons.
Yep.
Pow. When they walk in the room and say, that's a Seville.
Yep.
Boom. It changes things, you know, just like it changed it for King, Dr. Martin Luther King. You know, he's a junior, but what he contributed in his legacy outdid his father, who was a reverend.
Right.
And then he took on this legacy, and every last one of those children that came after him, when they walked in the room, they were already expected at a higher level. And they already were given opportunities that some people may not have been given simply because of their name. This is what you can transfer by being that good individual, by teaching your children. Don't let the streets teach your children. Come on, somebody.
Well, that's the most, and we spoke about this. Probably was like on the first or second show in regards to legacy. Is that's why you men, you know, like I said, it's a lot. You may be hurt, you may feel a certain kind of way, you may not necessarily had it, and we're not. And once again, speaking from experience, didn't have fathers in the households. A lot of things that we learned, and starting to unlearn certain things in regards to how our reactions, etc., should be in order to make it a better life for our kids. You know, a lot of anger, misplaced anger. You know, and you know, all everything that's there is that we everything that was there is that, and so we got to turn it around. And I can honestly say, I think definitely Elijah, you know, he was Elijah 11 is definitely a better version of me, because he embraces a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have embraced at that age, you know, but there's still a ways to go. And that's why we have to be that testimony, and we have to show them and model them exactly what it is. Man, this month has been awesome. People, we are learning just like you're learning. As we have these shows and we go off, we go back and we do our research on these things. I went back, like I told you, I went back and had to do a couple of things, especially in regards to the life insurance thing, because of this show, because we're having these conversations. And once again, we would have had these conversations anyways. Yeah. We love that we can invite you into these conversations. Shouts out to who was it? I think it was Ava. Ava was commenting and talking in regards to the last show. We appreciate that, engaging. I get people who call. Yeah, get people who call me in regards to the show. So you all continue to keep doing that. This is our oxygen. This is what brings us energy. We're here. We're setting up busy people. Joel is starting a great business with the Tenacity Foundation. Moving, busy guy. You all know my real estate business is moving and busy. We're busy, but we still want to take the time out and give you this information because it's important that we move as such. That way we don't have any excuses. Your children should not have any excuses because you were the rock. Right. You laid that. If it wasn't there before, we got because my mother was a rock, right? So at least I had that, but that foundation, you need to be the next foundation. Okay. Right. And so you started. No excuses. If you got me, you can have excuses or results. You pick. I love it, man. I love it. With this show will be a little bit shorter, but we really appreciate you guys as we continue going down this path. Go on, brother. I know we got.
I'm not going to jump on that one right there. I gotta let that one go because we're getting ready to shut it down. But I wanted to give a shout out to Robert Newland, all the way over there in Ohio. My man, Robert Newland. Listen, y'all go check this man out. He's working in the digital media field. Check him out. He's doing he's got a story to tell. I love it. But he's following these shows and checking in with us. I love it. Ava, like you mentioned earlier, oh man, she was dropping a whole lot of stuff. I had to go by there and put my little 2 cents in too, because I'm like, well, I love this lady right here. She's just sharing it. Yes, indeed. Listen, y'all, like we said, we're wrapping up Legacy. Just doing a little step back. We're going to be coming through with a different topic for the next month. Hey, if y'all got a topic that you want to see pop up on the screen, you want to see us talking about it, drop a DM. Throw it inside the chat. You know how to reach us. LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of that different type of stuff. Throw it in there. Say, hey, listen, Mike. Hey, Joel. I love the Community Beacon show. I love to see if y'all would talk about this or revisit this. I remember we had that thing going on about relationships and people were popping up all over the place, and groundwork and Mike has brought up so many financial tips. Somebody may be struggling with that. Let's talk about it. Let's have that conversation. All right.
Man, Mike. Yeah, man, that's it, man. We wrapped it up, man, with as much fire and zeal as we did when we started it. As you can tell, we're serious about this stuff, man. So love you guys. Appreciate you all. You all know how to reach us. It'll be in the description, I'm sure. And we'll see you, next week?
Next week, coming back for some more.
Peace, guys.